My name's Chris Wayner. I'm the program coordinator at the Lunder Conservation Center at the Smithsonian American Art Museum. Cheers. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for being so helpful in your registration, finding the building, finding the room, and being here. I had a lot of witty jokes to tell about LED lighting, but I can't seem to remember any of them right now. So instead, I think we'll just proceed to our next speaker, who's Brian Kraft. Brian received his art history degree at the University of Minnesota Twin Cities. He has 23 years of experience at the Minneapolis Institute of Arts, where he manages 19 full-time staff, volunteers, and interns. Brian and his staff began working with LEDs in September 2008, and they plan to complete the Institute's LED conversion by this June. Brian has kindly agreed to publicly debut his journey and experiences with LED lighting today. Brian Kraft.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Tiarna and the Lunder Center for having this conference. It's an amazing experience for me to share the information that we've learned through the last couple of years with colleagues and many of my friends who are out here in the audience as well. I'm hoping this will be a little bit different flavor than we have this morning. If there's anyone that has any questions about the charts yet, I can't answer them. You got to talk to the experts, so see those guys this afternoon. So the Minneapolis Institute of Arts. Many people haven't been there. Many people don't know the museum exists in the Midwest. It's just open plains, lots of cows, and you fly over it when you go to the West Coast. In reality, our museum was founded in 1883, and we opened our doors in 1915, so we're coming up on our 100-year anniversary. We have approximately 146 galleries in the museum. We have a staff of 240, and we have over 3,000 volunteers that help us out. We have a very extensive collection. It's an encyclopedic collection of about 5,000 years of art from all continents, and a really great sampling of most of the cultures that have been around. We are very strong in our African masks, Japanese ukiyo-e prints, old master prints, American photography, and Native American beadwork. So we have all sorts of issues that we have to deal with. To mark the beginning of our project, I think I have to take you back to 2008 when the stock market started to drop. Most cultural institutions felt a really big hit when that happened. Our endowments went down, our donations went down, and at the same time, our museum came out with a new strategic plan. Of that, the idea of having a green initiative and as well conservation of the collection were primary to that strategic plan. Out of that came our green team, whose initiative was to find ways of saving money. And they did that. They suggested to our facilities department to look at LEDs, so we started testing LEDs. They were very high-end, very expensive, but a funny thing is, our registration's lighting technician came across him and says, "What is this?" He didn't have any idea what an LED was, and he decided he had his light meter with him, and he would check them out. And he looked at it, he tested it, zero reading. He didn't understand what was going on. He thought his light meter was broken for the UV and IR part of the spectrum. So he scratched his head and thought, this might be a great application for the collection. And that kind of spurred on our LED project. Over the following years, we started contacting vendors, and all of a sudden we were finding LEDs showing up at our doorstep. We had vendors coming to us, asking us to try their LEDs out. So we started a very unscientific, very rudimentary grassroots testing program, and we were measuring UV, IR, heat. We were comparing color ranges, light quality, halos and reflections. We found that the early versions were just horrible. The quality was really low, and there's no way we would put these in our museum. But don't get me wrong, there were some very good LEDs out there. They were just very cost prohibitive for our museum. So this is just a sampling of some of them that we've tested. Many of you who've done this work in this field probably recognize many of them. Why did the MIA transition to LEDs? I think you've heard it from all the prior speakers of all the benefits of this, and I really wanted to just quantify for everybody why we did it. Environmental was part of our green initiative. We really wanted to reduce our footprint. For preservation, big push as well to preserve our collection, and the best way we thought to do this was eliminate the IR and UV in the galleries. Operational, obviously there's a cost savings with LEDs. Visual, I think we've all touched on it as well. It's all preferential and how things look, and later on I'll tell you about the details and the colors and really what spurred us on to do that. And also the idea of that all light is damaging. We felt we made a really great selection with the LEDs. It is, of the lights that are out there, the least damaging, and it really has to do with how you deal with the light and what do you do with it. So how do we get funding to have our project get started? We spend approximately $20,000 to $25,000 a year in replacement lamps. We spend, as a museum, approximately $1 million a year in energy consumption. So this is really huge. Can be a big cost savings for us if we can find a way of tapping into that area. However, LEDs are a very new technology. They're very expensive. There was a long return on investment when we first investigated them. So we really had a hard time thinking that we could invest in these things. Because of the market decline, we didn't have any funds to actually get into it and start. So we found an LED that was really high quality, cost a little bit more, and we decided we'd move ahead with a grant proposal with the NEH. Now the question is, do you think we got it? And that would be a big no. They were on the ball. They knew the products were very new in the market. They knew they were problematic, and so they just told us flatly no, but they gave us some good things to work on and move forward with. But we decided in the fall of 2010, an interesting thing happened. Major manufacturers started entering the market, and that greatly improved the quality of the light, the quality of the products, and LEDs that we were testing, we had malfunctions of the hardware, the connectors were falling apart, there were yellow and green halos, and that was gone, that was eliminated. So we decided to move ahead with testing in the galleries, and we tried all sorts of things, really small tests throughout the entire museum. We did prints and drawings, photography, ceramics, and we did it in every case that we could think of, on the wall, on a platform, in a display case, and we then checked with our staff, and we brought everybody in like our colleagues before did. Sorry about that. The one thing that we did notice and we wanted to test was 3 paintings. Unfortunately, these don't have the color corrections or anything like that, but just wanted to have a visual. We compared side by side, halogens, 2700 Kelvin, LEDs, 2700 Kelvin, and LEDs, 3000 Kelvin. And we brought up the director, the curators, the registrars, everybody that kind of had a stake in it, even our facilities people. And they all voted and talked about it. The halogens were definitely gone. They wondered what the heck kind of light that was. And they realized that's what our galleries were lit like. The decision was split between the 2700s and the 3000s. And what we ended up doing because of that is we went to blending the colors, blending the lights. We use a 3000 Kelvin light and 2 2700 lights. And we hit the work of art with the 3000, and then we blend the 2700 around it. And we feel that will also help with this degradation of the light over time. So it will dim, but to us, that gave us the best solution to our problem. We're still looking for funding. The testing is going great. So we decided to convince people inside the museum that this was going to be a great thing for us. Our selling points, reduced UV-IR, we saved staff time. We had a guarantee of 3 years on the lights with a payback in less than a year, which is a little different than our colleagues, and I'll tell you guys why real shortly here. Watt saved. We were moving from 90 watts and 50 watt bulbs to 17 and 12 watt bulbs. We use primarily par 30s and par 38s in our museum. And everybody says there's a long life expectancy in savings over 10 to 15 years. Especially they were easy to retrofit. One of the calculators that we use, I put up here on the screen, real quick and easy. You plug in your numbers, your watts, your lights, and your cost savings, and you get a real quick idea of payback on your investment. For us, the reasonable cost is we worked with a major manufacturer who gave us a large discount on their cost of their lamps. So we went from $75 to $56 a lamp. Our energy company was really interested in our project as well, and they gave us a rebate of $35 a lamp. So we ended up paying $21 a lamp with a payback in 8 to 10 months, which within a fiscal year made it very appealing to our financial people that we could start at the beginning of the year and we would make up that money by the end of the year. And we didn't even factor in HVAC or any of that other kind of thing into our numbers. So they said, yeah, let's do it. But we still weren't done with our testing. We went to a suite of 3 galleries, which had paintings, sculptures, photography, and we really wanted to show people what we could do. We tried to demonstrate the LED's abilities, gain acceptance from others, and also receive final approval to do the entire museum. And that's when we moved on with the blending of the 2700 and 3000 Kelvin. But we did identify issues. There's always issues when you do something like this. One of the things we thought it was going to be a really simple swap. Screw a light bulb out, screw it in, point it in the right direction. You know, obviously that's not the case. We found out that the beam spread operated differently, as well as you ended up with a blotchy and textured effect, which we fixed by just pulling our lamps back further away from what we were lighting. We moved all of our lights to the center part of our galleries. However, we did find there was a color shift. When we lit the first galleries, our warm gray walls turned purple. So in this shot, I'm hoping it translates a little bit. It's kind of hard. This gallery that we're in is actually painted with our new color. We added a tint of yellow to our paint, and it brought it back to its original color. And it counteracted the LED effect. And then we took the photo with the LEDs on in the other room. I think this one might show it a little better. So halogen in the front gallery and LED in the back galleries. Again, with the halogens and LEDs, the frames popped a lot more on these paintings. In this case, the white walls weren't really affected by the color, but the frames became a little bit more prominent. And here again, you can see another one, which fortunately was really acceptable to our curatorial staff. They really liked the looks of the LED in the new spaces. Colors and details. We discovered that we found details in paintings and sculptures that really you weren't aware of, and maybe it was just the new media, you're looking at it in a new light, literally looking at it in a new light, but the blues and greens were a lot more vibrant. The sculptures became had more depth to it, and they just really jumped out at you. So we're really enjoying the look of it in the galleries. The white cow, you know, here's a Minnesota stereotype. But the cow, you can see him across 2 galleries, and he just kind of draws you into it. We have skies that are blue. We have water that's blue and green. It's just amazing. Come on, one more. But one of the concerns we had, this is a detail of one of our sculptures that was treated about 20 years ago. Under the halogen lamp, we never saw that. That's a picture under the LED, and it jumps right out at you. You can see it. It's right in the front of the sculpture. And so there was a big debate that started in our museum about conservation and previous conservation work that had been done in the galleries, like the in-painting that's done on paintings, the repairs, the joints, all that kind of stuff. So the conservation group, we don't have any conservators at the MIA. We have an organization called the Midwest Conservation Association, and they rent space from us, and we use them as our conservators. But they were up in the galleries looking at all their old conservation work, and they determined that it really wasn't the case. It's just that this drew out the details and the depths of the sculpture that it really showed it to be visible. So LEDs are now going into the conservation labs down in MAC, so they're working in a similar environment to the work that comes back to the museum. Third floor by the numbers. I'll just do this real quickly. I'm not sure how I'm doing on time here. All right, 46, I got 15, cool. Third floor, it was a big project for us. We had 19 weeks to complete it. The reason is we were ready by AAM convention in Minneapolis. We had a small workshop in Minneapolis at the time. We had 42 spaces that we repainted. We relamped 67 galleries total, 200 gallons of paint, 500 works of art moved, 2,360 lamps replaced. We saved 2,005 watts and are saving about $3,135 a month. So it adds up. My accounting department can't verify the actual numbers of savings just because of the flux of heating and cooling and time of year, but we are seeing savings in our energy bills already. Communications, we also kept in contact with the public as well as our staff to know what's going on, because we were changing these light bulbs as we were open during the day. So we put signs out that said what was going on. We were in constant contact with our security department and our visitor and member services, so they knew where we were working, and people were actually seeking us out to see what we were doing in the museum. And then somebody got smart and said, let's put a donation box out. And they put a little sign on the counter and said, hey, buy a light bulb. And so people were starting to buy light bulbs for the museum, and we've actually raised quite a bit of money for that project as well. It's not quite what we put out originally, but people still donate, which was great to see. Oops. Some additional experiences that we've had. Since we did third floor first, we had just as many halogen bulbs as we did LEDs come out. So what are we going to do with the halogens? We reuse them in the second and first floors. We didn't buy another light bulb for a year and a half. Problem is, though, all that handling, the heat buildup, the life of the halogen bulbs was shortened dramatically. So there was actually an increase in labor using previously used bulbs. But we felt for our green initiative we needed to do that. We've eliminated our daily rounds on third floor for looking at lights. We're considering lengthening rotations. It's still under debate. And if you do a project like this, you need room for pallets, organization, and boxes. As you can see on the ground there, that's all our reused halogens, all the boxes behind. You just need a lot of space to do this kind of a thing. We date the backs of our lamps for guarantee purposes. We date it the day we screw it in. And we've had one patron complaint the entire time we've done the project, so I think we're doing okay. And burnouts, if you have, yeah. And burnouts, we haven't had any problems with burnouts. I think of the 5,000 bulbs that we've screwed in already, we've returned 12 to the vendor. Fortunately, we haven't had a flicker problem. I think we've selected a manufacturer that has a really great quality product. Unfortunately, the only one that flickers is my desk lamp on my desk. Yep. But it still burns and it still runs okay. So if there are burnouts, we always find it's a halogen. We missed it. Something to consider as well when you're doing a replacement project, facilities is really important. They need to follow along with you as you're going so you don't have differences in quality down hallways, in bathrooms. All the light quality is the same. You don't get the quilt work kind of effect. So we had our facilities department do our gallery safety lighting, our restrooms, hallways, stairs, back of house, and we have still 5,500 fluorescent lights that we need to replace. But right now the technology is not at a point where we can see significant cost savings in this project. So fluorescence will still be a part of our lives, but eventually we will be completely LED. At the beginning of our third floor project, we thought we had a good application for the NEH, and the technology was there. We had conservator support, and we applied for another NEH grant, and we were lucky enough to receive it. And I thank the NEH for having us help us see our dreams come true at the museum. So final project will be completed this June 2013 with a total savings of 440,000 watts, and we're estimating about $120,000. With an operating budget of $1 million, that's a significant savings. We'll see if it actually happens, but I'm sure we'll be fairly close. I received an email a couple of months ago from our manufacturer and our light vendor that says they're discontinuing the bulb that we use. Not LED, the halogen bulb that we use, so we're safe. And just for information, if you're going into doing LEDs, the manufacturer we're using is only producing lamps as the orders are coming in. So it is a bit of a wait. You don't get them next day like the halogens. They're not in stock here, at least with the vendor we're using. Some unusual lamps are not developed yet. We have period rooms that has chandelier lights and some backlighting and other things like that that we don't have a conversion for, which eventually we'll develop and we will replace them. And also because of the light degradation over time, we are planning to replace full galleries as the light quality gets down far enough. And we haven't figured out when that's going to be. We're thinking possibly 5 to 7 years, but we still have to do some research in that area. Exhibitions, we have 2 major exhibition spaces, and we determined that some shows may require all spots or all floods, so we have to have a large surplus of LEDs as well. So that's something you might want to consider when you're thinking about flexible changing spaces all the time. So in my experience, we've got 3 people from my institution to thank. Karl Shapansky, who discovered or tested the first LEDs. We have 1 lighting designer and technician in the building, so he and I were actually the ones who unpacked all the boxes, screwed in all the lights, and did all the testing. Charles Walbridge, as well as a photographer, he did a lot of the technical stuff, and I would say rely on your experts. Learn the information, make your best decision. We had to make a decision, and we wanted to move forward. I'm not a technical expert, neither is Karl, but through the research of Jim and Steve, we determined that this is the way we want to go, this is what we want to do, and we pursued it. And we selected a really good manufacturer to go with based on their information and their knowledge. And Sean McCann was our first facilities guy to screw in the first LED, we should say. So I want to say thank you very much, and please feel free to contact Karl or myself at the museum. We'd be happy to answer questions. So thank you very much. Oh, do I have a couple of seconds? That was kind of quick. I've got something else real quick. Let's have a little fun. I'll introduce you to Karl. That's Karl.
Brian Kraft, ladies and gentlemen.